So welcome to this demonstration of how to play solo war games. This is following on from my previous video about the rough guide to solo gaming. What I'm doing here today is I'm showing you a demonstration of basically how some of the ideas that I used or talked about in that video are going to work when it comes to actually gaming. What I've done is I've set up a board here which is a typical Malayan jungle scene. I'm going to play as a Japanese and I'm going to be fighting against, they're going to be fighting, should I say, against Indians who will already be on the board waiting. I'm going to use the Two Fat Lardies rules chain of command. It's with a couple of different changes. I'll explain those as I go along, but I'm basically using the core rules and you'll see how I put out the different forces and also the hidden movement elements of this. So what we have is this little Malayan village here. You can see with a burning British tank in it. There's already been an unsuccessful Japanese attack by tanks up the road. They've obviously got as far as this bridge, but both are burning. So this is why they've sent into the infantry. Pretty similar scenario to what happened at some of the battles in Malaya, like Bakri and places like that. And we also have another burning British truck here. I mean, these will just block line of sight. The burning hulks. That's the idea. We've also got quite a lot of jungle cover up here, up towards where the railway is. Unfortunately, I don't have much more than 3 pieces of railway, otherwise I'd have more of it on the board. So that's how the board looks. As I said, the Japanese are going to be attacking up this road, and the idea is for them to at least try to capture or hold the bridge before the British can either escape or stop them doing it, basically. I keep saying British, sorry, I mean Indians. Forces wise, I'm playing this game with 4 Japanese sections and their platoon headquarters. Each of the sections is made up of, let's see, 8 riflemen as one team and a 3-man LMG team, including a junior leader. So that's 12 men in each one. So there's 4 of these, as you can see here. The company headquarters is made up of a senior leader. He's going to be a level 4 senior leader and a level 3 senior leader designated by the flag. These are accompanied by 3 riflemen. The leader level in chain of command tells you basically how much they can do in a turn. It might not mean much if you haven't played chain of command, but you'll see how it works as the game goes along. Now facing them and playing in the hidden role are these Indians. And what I've got here is 4 sections. These are made up of a team of 6 rifles and a 2-man LMG team with a junior leader, and that's the same for all of them. So that's the other one. There's another one here and also here. With these we've also got an observation post team made up of 2 men. I'll talk about these cards in a second. A 2-man mortar team, that's a light mortar, and an anti-tank team as well with 2 men. That probably won't have much bearing on this game because there's no Japanese armour, but I've included it because it's, you know, part of the historical makeup of this unit, and they can still fire as rifles. I've also got here the platoon headquarters made up of these 2 senior leaders. So one is going to be level 3, that's the guy with the helmet, and one is level 4, that's the guy with the map. Probably got it upside down. The reason I put those together with these sections is because I want these guys all to be hidden at the start of the game, which is why they've all got these cards with them. And you can see this is the infantry section, belongs to this one, the observation post, the mortar team, the anti-tank team, another infantry, and the other infantry. I'll talk about these dummies in a second. But the reason I put the infantry section and the platoon headquarters together here on this particular card is because if I had them out on their own and they were one of the the early cards to get revealed and they got taken out pretty quick, which they probably will do if there's only 2 men, it would leave the rest of the Indians in pretty dire straits. So what I've done is I've lumped them together as part of this card when this card gets pulled. So just to talk quickly about the cards, one little thing here, I've made these on Microsoft Word. It took literally 10 minutes. I put together enough and then I just printed them. I've laminated them. You don't have to. I've just laminated these because I've got a laminator. It's dead easy. But one thing I did notice is I originally printed them on thin paper, and you could actually see the name of the unit on the back of the card. This is 120 mg or whatever it's called paper, so it's a little bit thicker. And as you can see, you know, when I hold it up to the light, you can see there's a name on it. But flat on the ground, it's just perfectly white, which is perfect for our for what how we're gonna play. I've also got over here these 3 dummy cards. As I say, what I'm going to do is mix up all of these, and then I will lay these out across the table in various places, including the dummy cards. I'm not going to know which is which, but they will just sit in there, you know, probably threatening until I move towards them as the Japanese, because I'm playing the Japanese in this game. What I've also done as well, and which I mentioned in the Rough Guide to Solo Wargaming video, which is in, I'll put it in the description, are these order cards. Now, these are very simple, and it just creates a very simple artificial intelligence for your game. So, I've done quite a few of these. What we've got is stuff like this. Advance to contact if you're infantry, using the best cover. Otherwise, hold in position. So, if it's one of the smaller units, this is kind of telling that unit what you want it to do when they're revealed. I've also got engage, then withdraw to the best cover. So that's basically, you know, almost a fighting retreat. Find the best cover within 12 inch and hold position. This one here, that's another one the same. Advance to contact again. Find best cover within 12 inches and hold the position. So there's quite a few of these, and what I've done is, there's a lot of them, but there's only about 3 or 4 actual orders within them, you can see. And what I've done is, rather than do one order card for each unit, I've done quite a lot of them, so it's going to randomise it even more as to what these units will do. Because otherwise, say I've got, well, how many teams have I got here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different units. If I only had 7 cards here, by the time I was getting down to, you know, like the 5th and the 6th, I could probably guess what the next orders were going to be. This way, I've really mixed it up. There's at least double of each order. So there's going to be quite a spread of artificial intelligence across these teams. What you may also have noticed is the OP team here as well. It says automatically will hold position. So as soon as they're revealed, they're going to stay where they are. I mean, I might change that a little bit and just think, well, you know, if they're stuck out in the middle of something, if they can't see anything, there's not much point having them. They may move towards cover, but they're not going to be. The reason I put that on is because I don't want to give them an orders card, because I want them to be in a position to be able to bring down fire at some point. And as I say, yeah, I mentioned the dummy cards. I mentioned all these cards. So what I'm going to do now is basically shuffle these together, and then I will lay them out face down at various points across the board, and then that will give me the starting positions for the British. Okay, so I've now shuffled and set up where I want the Indian forces to be, and I've kind of put these across the table in quite a right wide spread. You can do what you want here at this point. I mean, you know, I'm trying to make it as difficult as possible for the Japanese. So, you know, their starting off point is just there. I've got one unit here, or one thing here is in the trees. Obviously we don't know how it is. I've got 3 of them over here in each of these individual buildings in the village, which you would expect. And then, you know, they're going to use cover. So they're there. In this tree line, just by the side of the river, I have one. And there's another one here just guarding the bridge. Also guarding the bridge are these 2 as well. These are kind of overlooking this killing zone here between the village and the bridge. And we have another one here at the back and then the final one is over here back in these trees here. So really the back 2/3 of the table are pretty much covered with these little white tabs at this point. And as you can see, you know, I can't see what they are, I have no idea. They're all face down. The plan is, what will happen is I will reveal these when any Japanese unit, there's a Japanese there all set up ready, when any Japanese unit gets within 12 inches of them, they will reveal. They will then get an instant chance to fire if they can see Japanese. I'm going to ignore any cover or terrain for the reveal. So for instance, if a Japanese unit is here in front of this house and these are in 12 inches of it, then they will be revealed. There won't be any firing because there's a big house in between them. But so yeah, I'll reveal them at 12 inches, and they will then get a chance to fire, as they would normally in chain of command. When you deploy on the table, you do get a chance to fire, you can't move. And then what I will do is I will also then deal them an orders card if they require it. If it's an observation post, they won't get one. If it's they will get the orders card, and then I will start rolling the dice. As soon as the first Indian unit is revealed, I will start rolling the command dice for the Indian units. Now the Japanese are set up over here, and I've literally just set these up at the edge of the table. Normally in chain of command you would have jumping off points. This game, as I say, I'm just using things slightly differently, and I've decided not to. I'm going to just have these coming in from the back edge. They're moving in, and they're going to try to get their way as far up this table as they can, dealing with each and every allied threat that they can. I think there's probably enough. The numbers are on the Japanese side, definitely, but obviously it depends what they come across and how badly mauled they get by the Indians. Now, as I said, you know, 3 of these at least are dummies. So 3 of these will not hold any enemy forces in them. Also, the Japanese player, or me, the Japanese, may not even go anywhere near any of them. And in that case, then they won't come onto the table. So, you know, it's basically, it's really up to how the game flows and what happens in it. And I think there's as much as I can say about that, so I suppose it's probably time to get started. I did my force morale rolls, and the Japanese have ended up with 8. The Indians have ended up with 9. The Japanese are obviously low in morale because they've probably been marching all the way down Malaya at this point for a few weeks. So the first roll that I'm going to do for them is their command roll. And that's given us a 1, 2 2s, that was a 3, and a 5. So the 5 instantly gives them a chain of command point straight up, so that's pretty good, so that can get rid of. So now we can move a team, 2 sections, or start get the senior leader to move. The second in command to move. Or if I was put these 2 together, I could turn that into a 4 and get the senior commander to move. What I will do there, I think, is use up 2 on the sections and then do that. Turn that into the senior commander so he could actually move a couple of sections as well. So I've taken the first move. The Japanese have moved. What I did was, with those command dice, I used this 2 to move this section, and they've all moved up together. I used the 4 for the senior leader, and he's got 4 command initiatives, so he ordered this unit to move up. He also ordered this unit to move up as well, and the battalion headquarters, the platoon headquarters as well. So he was able to get those moved forward. And then finally I used the other 2 to move this section forward as well, because that was just outside the range of the commander's command radius of about 12 inches. So over here, although these have now actually moved up, the Japanese here behind the trees have moved up, they're just out of 12-inch range of spotting those. So just to demonstrate that, There they are on 12 inch. It's just outside. If they move next turn, they'll probably come within that 12 inches, and then we will then reveal what that is. So I roll for the Indians, and as you can see, they got a 2, a 2, a 3, a 5 and a 6. So I didn't want them to lose out, so I've given them that roll. They can't do anything because there's nothing on the board at the moment. The 6 in this case doesn't do anything, but the 5 will give them 1 chain of command dice point. So that, at least they can start building those up in case they need them for the future. So back to the Japanese command roll. Let's see what they get. 2, that was a 2, a 3, a 4 and a 5. So pretty similar to what they got last time, but they can also get a ranking senior leader to activate as well, so that's quite good. Sorry, that's a junior leader, a 3. So that's quite a good spread. They've also got a chain of command points as well. So I've got a bit of an interesting conundrum here, and this, as I've mentioned before, is the joy of solo wargaming. I know there's something there. I don't know what it is, obviously. I've got a couple of units here that could potentially deal with it. These guys are probably the closest to it. I've also got this unit here, and then I've also got the headquarters. Now, I've rolled my dice. I've given the 4 to my senior leader over here because he's the only one that can use it anyway. But he can actually command this unit to move and fire if needs be. And I've also given my other section order to these guys over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these with what we call normal movement. They'll remove 1d6 and then they will be able to fire. Now, as I said, these are currently 1 inch away, so basically anything they move, they're going to reveal that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them, and then I'm going to reveal it. If it's something, that will fire, and then they will still be able to fire as well. If it isn't anything, it gives me a bit more of a choice of what to do over with these guys. I move them through, we've got a clear flank to get up this way. But this is what I mean about, clearing a village or just advancing your way through the table. So let's get started. Enough blather from me. So we've got a 3. So they're going to go their full pelt of a 3 inch. So these guys are gathered up to about here. That's using up their command dice. So that's finished with. So what we're going to do is, because they are now well within the 12 inches of this unit, we'll reveal it. We have the mortar team. So we place these on the table. These are in cover. Are they 4 inches away? They are within 4 inches, so they can be fired at. Now, and as I said, when they're revealed, they can also fire. So they will get a chance to fire straight away. You're going to, basically, it's up to you who you want to fire your units at, but I'm going to go with the idea that they're going to fire at the closest unit. They can see these Japanese attacking over here, so that's what they're going to do. Okay, I've checked, and the light mortar can't fire at anything that's under 12 inches. And these Japanese here are under 12 inches. Now, these ones over here aren't. However, I'm going with target priority, and these are the closest ones. They're not going to fire over there when there's 12 men threatening them with rifles here. So they're going to switch to their rifles, of which there are 2. And as I said, this is their free shot action. So they're rolling 2 dice. They're firing at regulars at close range because it's under 18 inches. They're using bolt action rifles. So they're going to need a 4 to a 6 to hit. That's pretty good odds. But they both missed, 2 2s. So that's them missed. Now, remember I said that we also want to give them some orders. So these are my order cards. As you can see, I'm shuffling them up. and then I will reveal this. I mean, the chances are this unit is probably not going to survive by the next turn, but I'll show you how these orders work. So, reveal the top one, find the best cover within 12 inches and hold position. Arguably, at this point, they are already in the best cover because they're in the woodlands. So they will probably stay there, at least. If, I'd put this unit somewhere in the open, then maybe, here, and they were revealed, they would probably fall back to here or even towards the buildings over there. But in this case, they're already in cover, so I'm just going to have them hold their position. That's what they're going to do for the rest of the game. So the Japanese are firing back. They've got a magazine-fed LMG, which gives them 6 dice in the attack. They've also got another 9 rifles. You can split these down into teams, so I could fire with the LMG team, and then I can fire with the rifle team, but in this case I'm not going to. I'm just going to fire with all of them at once. They're firing at close range, and they're firing against average troops, so they need 4 to 6 to hit. So that is a lot of hits already. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hits in total basically on 2 men. I don't think the Indians are going to survive this. They are in heavy cover. I'm going to call this heavy cover because it's jungle. It's thick primary jungle. So it could either be open, light or heavy. I'm going to go with it being heavy just to give them a bit of a fighting chance, for God's sake. If it's a 1 to a 4, it's a miss. We roll a 5, it's a 6. A 5 it's a shock, and a 6 is a kill. So we re-roll all of these. They basically just need to get 2 6s, 2 or more 6s, and they've wiped out that unit. So that's 1. And actually they've done alright out of that. The Japanese couldn't hit a barn door at 40 paces by the looks of it. It's probably not going to be great though, because it's caused 1 kill and given them 3 shock. 3 shock is more than double what they are, so they immediately have to fall back 6 inches plus another 2d 6 inches. And if they're now broken, if they don't recover any shock by the end of when the turn ends, then they're lost and they're off table anyway. So although they haven't killed them, they've driven them off the table. So they've fallen back 10 inches. They've taken a kill, which is the red cap, and they've also taken 3 shock. And as I say, if they don't recover any shock by the end of the turn, then they will rout off table, and we will have to have a look at the bad things happen, and that will affect their force morale. So for the rest of their activations, the Japanese moved forward these 2 units on the right, and also the guys heading down the road here. They didn't get them very far. The dice rolls are very poor. They're still way above 12 inches away from the Indian units that are in the village here. However, they may not have destroyed that mortar unit, but they've at least cleared pretty much this left flank at this point. There's obviously still a couple of units kicking about in the village, as I just said, covering that advance. But for now, it means that the Japanese, this section at least, can get quite far up before anything else is going to happen. So this is the command roll for the Indians. There's not a great deal they can do because they've only got 1 unit on the table, and it is already panicked and running anyway. So that would be a team, that would be a section, and that would be a junior leader. However, they have scored a double 6, which means that they actually get to retain the phase. So they can actually roll again to see if they can get any more chain of command dice. There's not a great deal else they can do. It may end the turn, and it may get rid of the fellas who are trying to escape at the moment. But the second roll, the 6 there, means that the turn goes back to the Japanese. They do get a chain of command points, and again the other bits there just aren't particularly useful. So I'll just tot up their dice and go back to the Japanese. Okay, so here we are rolling the Japanese. Wow, That's a good one. Well, for chain of command dice at least. So that gives them 3 because they've got 3 5s, and then they also get a 3, so they get to activate a junior leader. Their 6 in this case does nothing. It just means the phase goes back to the Indians, but at least they get a few more chain of dice command. Okay, that was quite a quiet move for the Japanese. They got their chain of command points, but they used their junior leader here to try to get this section to move forward. They did a normal move. They did 2d6, but they didn't move a great deal far forward. You can see that they're still pursuing these Indians, the Indian mortar crew. So I rolled for the Indians, and they didn't get enough points to do anything, not even getting them any chain of command points. So I've rolled again for the Japanese, and this is what they ended up with. They've got double 6, which means that this turn and the next turn will be theirs. They've got 2 4s and a 3, so that's 2 senior leaders and 1 junior leader. So that's actually quite a good roll. So they can basically activate quite a lot of stuff this turn, and they will also get to take another phase as well straight after this, where they can activate again. So I'll get them doing that. The Japanese, in this turn, they activated this junior leader over here to move forward the squad, again to keep up the pursuit of the Indian mortars. What might happen next turn is they can't fire this turn because they moved normally, so they use both their 2 dice to move forward. They may fire next turn if I get a chance to activate them. However, over here in the centre, they activated the 2 senior leaders with the 2 4s in the headquarters units. They moved that forward. Also, one of their senior leaders ordered this unit to move forward, this section, and this section to move forward as well. So the only section that they couldn't order because they were out of range were these guys over here. So now they're kind of pushing up that centre, which is quite nice. And what this means is they've actually now come within 12 inches of whatever unit it is there that's in this building. The 2 units over here, the 2 Indian units over here in this building, are still just over 12 inches away. So there's only this one that we're going to reveal this turn. So let's do that. Okay, so we have, don't forget, whatever this unit is, when it's revealed, may get a chance to fire. It is an infantry section and the platoon headquarters. So that's these guys. And what I thought was I'd allow them to set up anywhere within 6 inches of the reveal, but as they're in heavy cover in there, I think it's probably better just to leave them all in. Now they can only fire 90 degree at a 90 degree angle out of any of the windows. Thankfully there's a lot of windows in this place. There's also some windows on the front as well, so those Japanese are actually within that range. And as I said before, when a Indian unit is revealed, it will be able to fire. The Japanese in this phase anyway, they used 2 dice to move, so they'll not be able to fire anyway. So this means that the British, all of the units in there will be able to fire down on the Japanese, and there's quite a lot of them. So because the Indians are in cover and they're only firing out of the one window at this house down to the Japanese, you can only fire with 2 men at a window any time. So they're going to bring up their LMG, which is going to give them a total of 6 dice, and then also fire with 1 bolt action rifle, which will give them another dice. So that's 7 in total. They're firing at the veterans in the open, close range, 4, 5 or 6 to hit. When the Japanese fire back, the 2 men that are firing at them will be the ones that are targeted. So it will be a rifleman and the LMG guy. So if there's any hits, it's going to be on those 2. So let's just see if they hit them anyway. 4, 5s and 6s. So that's 1, 2 hits on the Japanese. They are currently in the open, and so 1 or 2 is a miss. 3 to a 4 is a shock, and a 5 or a 6 is a kill. They may kill a couple of here. There's this intervening terrain here, which you can see, but I'm going to take this as light cover, but only if you're in it. These aren't in it, they're on the road. So 5s or 6s are kills, 3s or 4s are shock. So 1 4, 1 miss. So 1 shock, and that's it on those Japanese. So the next thing to do, that's the Indians have fired. The next thing I want to do now is decide what their orders are going to be. Remember, I pulled this one out for the mortars. I'm actually going to shuffle it back in just to increase my chances of pulling it out again. So they're all getting different orders. I'm not reducing the amount of the pack. That's a good thing about having cards, is that you can mess about with the pack as much as you want. You can add things, take them away as you see fit. So we have, their orders are, so basically find best cover within the 12 inch of the position and hold. So that is basically what they're doing anyway. I don't really need to put that down because they're not going to move. They're in the best cover that they're in. So because the Japanese roll 2 6s, it means that they retain the next phase. This is the next phase, so I'm rolling their command dice again. And we have the 6, 1 6 on its own is nothing. They have a 1, which means they can activate 1 team. A 2, activate a section. And 2 3s, which is activate junior leaders. Now I could split these, double these up. You can't split them down, but you can actually add them up. So I could add that up and get 3 junior leaders doing something. And I think that's, at this point, probably the best option. So that's what I'm going to do. This infantry unit, this section has moved forward. They've moved 8 inches, so they're actually getting up. I'm trying to get them to flank into this village. They're still a little bit far away to reveal this Indian unit here behind this building, but this one I'll talk about in a second. This unit over here, these chaps, they've used 1 dice to move forward, gets them into, some of them into light cover. It also means that they can now fire. Using the junior leader, they can now fire at that building. The 1 shock isn't going to affect them too much. What this does actually do, though, it brings them within 12 inches of that unit there. So I'm going to reveal that in a second. I'll just show you what I've done. Over here, this section has again just slightly moved forward. They've got themselves into a better firing position to fire down on the remaining mortar crew there. And they are just out of range of this unit here, so again they'll not reveal them, but hopefully we might be able to do a bit of damage against these, finish off this mortar crew. There's not much point. I mean, they're broken anyway, they're not really going anywhere. So that's what we like at the moment. So the first thing to do is to reveal this unit here, and again, as I keep saying, these I'm allowing them to fire straight away, so let's just have a quick look. Arguably, if they're able to, their target is probably going to be these guys. The line of sight is blocked pretty much, those, and I think they're probably the more obvious threat. So let's see what they are. It's the observation team. They automatically hold their position, so they're going to be in there. If I can activate them, it may mean that they may be able to bring down mortar fire on the Japanese as they advance, which they're actually in probably the best position they could be on the table for that kind of thing. They can see quite a lot from there. So I've got the Indian, well, these are British observation team in here. As I say, these will operate if the Allies roll a 1. They will operate as a team. They will then be able to call in a mortar strike, which is quite a big thing, and it might really make a mess of the Japanese plans if it comes off. They can't be fired out unless they're firing out of the window, so they're pretty safe in there. They could be close assaulted if these Japanese can get up close enough. The Allies at this point really probably need this unit here to be a section to be able to defend these guys. But they've at least got a section in the HQ over there, and then if this one turns out to be a section as well, they're pretty well protected from these Japanese attacks. So let's just see what happens with the Japanese firing against the LMG and the riflemen that fired at them here, and then also against the mortar team in that corner. Adding up the Japanese, there's 11 men, 10 infantry plus the junior leader who is able to add his fire because he's activating this section, plus the 6 from the light machine gun, so that's giving us a 17 roll. Now they're firing at average soldiers, so they need 4 to 6s to hit, but they're going to be firing into heavy cover, which is going to make it much more difficult for them to actually kill anybody. Remember, they can only kill 2 people as well, tops. So let's see, we've got 1, 2. Let's take these out. There are misses. 1, 2. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hits. We're re-rolling these because the Allies are in, the Indians and the Brits are in a heavy cover. 6 is a kill, 5 is a shock, everything else is a miss. So we need at least 2 6s to kill the 2 guys that were firing at them. Well, that's 1, but there's no shock. What a shock, no shock. So they've only killed 1 of them. Now, they're firing at the LMG team, so the other guy can actually pick up the LMG and just carry on firing it anyway. So I'm just going to go with the crew member who was with him has been killed. And in our other firing efforts over here, we've got these Japanese again with an LMG, about a magazine-fed LMG, plus 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11 rifles. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 11 rifles because again we've got the junior leader who is leading them, he can fire with them. And we add the 6 for the LMG. These are firing at, again, veterans, so we need 4, 5s and 6s to hit. And we've got quite a lot there. Take out the misses. They're firing in the open. A 5 or a 6 is a kill, 3 to 4 is shock. So basically they need any one 5 or a 6. I think they've probably got this. Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kills and 2 shock. Obviously the shock doesn't count because they've overkilled. However, this means that the Allies now have to roll on the bad things happen table. So this is the bad things happen table. Actually, looking at this, I should have rolled when the team broke. So I'll quickly do that now. If I roll a 1, there's no effect. A 2 to a 5, there was minus 1 point off their force morale. A 6, minus 2 points. So this is for their previous turn. So 5, so they're already down by 1 point. Now the team has been wiped out. 1 to 2, it's no effect. 3 or above, they get another minus 1 point. So let's have a look at that. That's a 1, so nothing. So they lose 1 off their force morale. That now drops down to 8. Just quickly talk about this. The force morale, this is the Allies' force morale. It's currently on 9. They started on 9. They've taken a loss because a team broke previously, and then their second bad things happen roll when the team was wiped out, nothing happened. So they've dropped down by 8. Once you start getting down to 5 and below, then things really do happen that are bad. You start losing command dice until you get to 0 when you break, and then that's it. The game is over. The entire side's morale has collapsed. So the Japanese have had their 2 phases. So we're now back to the Allies. There are a couple of Allied units on the table. So we've got the infantry section and we've also got the observation post. What we're hoping to do is roll a 1 so we can at least get the observation unit to be able to call in a mortar strike on the Japanese at this point, because that would be perfect timing if they could. They also would do with rolling another 1 or a 2 at least, just so they can actually fire again at the Japanese as they're coming up against them in the smaller building. So let's see what they get. Well, that is perfect. So we've got a 1. The 6 is nothing on its own. We've got a 5, so that gives them another chain of command dice. So that now takes them up to 3. So we can get rid of that as well. So now we're left with the 1, a 2 and a 3. So that's quite good actually. That means they can get their section to fire out of the building are these Japanese here that are coming up the hill. They can also contact their mortar barrage to try to get a barrage to come in. This won't occur until they're activated again, so it won't happen until next turn, but at least they've now contacted the mortar barrage, so we'll get rid of that. So again, we've got the Indian LMG gun firing out of here. We've also got a rifleman as well firing out of there. So the LMG is a magazine fed, so that's going to be firing 6 rounds, and then we've also got a rifleman who is firing with 1 round here. If the Japanese are able to fire back in their turn and they kill anybody, it's going to be those two that they're going to get killed. So we will roll these dice. We're looking for 4, 5s and 6s because the Japanese are veterans, or average should I say. So we've got 1, 2, 3 hits on them there. So they're all misses. So we're re-rolling these. They're in the open. So again, we're the 5 or 6 is a kill, 3 or 4 is shock. So 2 shock and a miss. So that's now put their shock up to 3. The Japanese were on 1, they're now on 3. So that means that when they move, they will minus 3 inches off any movement, off each dice they roll. So that's quite heavy. They will also, for every 2 points of shock, you reduce your firing dice by 1. So they will take off 1 firing dice when they get to have a shot. The phase passed over, so it's the Japanese again, so let's see what they get. They have a 5, which is a chain of command points, so we'll add that on. That's now giving them 6, so they're now up. They can actually use a chain of command dice at some point to do something. They've also got 2 2s, a 4, and a 3. So we have 2 sections, a senior commander, and a junior commander. Let's just have a little think about what they want to do with those. Having had a think about this, we've got this section here. I've given them a 2, so they can continue advancing. What they're going to try to do is try to reveal what that section or whatever it is over there. I know section. So what I'll probably do is bring them up into this cover so they can't be fired at, but they can at least reveal them. Over here, I've given the 3, which is a junior leader, to the junior leader here. What he's going to do is he's going to reduce shock. He can reduce it by 1, and then get them to fire. So they'll be firing into that building again. I've also given the 4 over here to the senior commander. He's going to move a bit closer to this section as well, and also bring down their shock and bring these headquarters up with him. And then finally, these guys are staying where they are for now. But this section is going to move forward and again try to get this unit, whatever it is, to reveal itself, so we know what we're dealing with on this side of the village. Over here, these guys only managed to move 3 inches forward, so they got a bit bogged down. They're nowhere near being able to reveal those. I did think about maybe allowing them to fire over here into this building, but they've got that burning tank in between them and the building, so I don't think there's going to be much chance of them being able to fire across. Over here, these chaps, they had their shock reduced by 2, not only by their junior leader who's commanding them, but also by the senior leader who has now moved over into this light cover behind this building, and he was able to, use one of his activations to bring down their shock. So they're now on 1, which is quite good because it means they're not getting such a bad hit when it comes to the movements or the firing. And then these guys over here, these only moved 1 dice, so they're able to fire as well, because they weren't sure what was in this building here with this. Their movement, they came forward at 6, so they are actually able, just within range now, just within 12 inches, to reveal this unit, and it is an infantry section. So we'll get that on the board, and then we can deal with the firing. Apologies, I've just gone through the rules, and this senior leader can't rally shock off these unless he's attached to the unit and they're within the line of sight of enemy. They are in line of sight of enemy, so I've put their shock back up. Their shock is now on 2 instead of the 1 it was. It's not a great difference, but it means that they're going to lose 1 dice when they fire. So this is what I'm going to do. One of the joys of solo wargaming is you can spend some time reading the rules. So they're firing with their box-fed LMG. They're also firing with, because they're firing with their junior commander is firing with them. They've got 11 dice, 11 extra dice, so that's 17 in total. They've got 2 shock, so they're going to reduce that then down to 16 dice. So again, we're firing at average, so we need 4, 5s, and 6s to hit. And again, remember, we're only firing at two people in those windows. So let's get rid of the misses. See what we're left with. That is 3, 6, 10 hits. And they're in heavy cover, so a 6 will kill, a 5 will shock. They need 2 6s to take out the team that we're firing at them. So there's 1. And the shock there is not. So the Allies have taken 1 shock and also 1 kill. That kill was on the LMG team, so the LMG team now is being destroyed. Because of that, they have to roll on the Bad Things Happen dice roll. I've already rolled it. They get a -1 on their force morale. So now the Allies are now on 7, so they're already suffering pretty badly. And we've only really just started the attack on this village. On the other side of the village, if you remember, we just revealed this the Indian section here. They're going to fire out because they get to fire as soon as they're revealed. The Japanese over here, they only advanced using 1 dice, so they can also fire back as well this turn. I'm going to allow the Indians to fire first because it's a bit of a jump from their point of view. So they've got, there's only 2 windows at the front, you can see, so that means only 4 men can actually fire out. So that's going to be 3 rifles, 3d6, and then 6 dice for their box-fed LMG, their Bren gun, firing out of there. They're firing at veteran troops, 4, 5s, and 6s. I'm going to count these as being in the open. Again, they're behind fences, but I think those fences are going to be small enough not to protect them. Or to not call them cover anyway. So I'm looking at 4, 5s, and 6s. So we'll get rid of the rest. That's a pretty good score, that, for the Indians there. Some marksmen on this side. So we've got 6 hits. So they're rolling 5 or 6s are kills, 3 or 4 is shock. So that's 1 kill, 2 shock. So we've got a Japanese leader in here. He may be the one that's been hit and killed. So I roll a d6, and if I get under the amount of casualties caused on the unit, then he's been hit. So we'll see. He needs a 1. No, he's been missed. So he's fine to carry on. So now we've got the Japanese firing back at the Indians in the building. Remember, they can only hit a maximum of 4 because there's only 4 windows there. They have a total of, they've got 1 box-fed LMG, so that's 6, and then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9 rifles. They can't use their junior leader in this one because he wasn't activated. So that takes them up to 15 shots. They've also got 2 shocks, so that drops it again to 14 shots. We need 4, 5, 6s to hit. That's cogs, so let me just re-roll that. There we go, so that's a hit. Take out the misses. 1, 2, 3, 4 misses, leaving us with 5, 6, 7, 8, so that's 10 hits. They're in heavy cover. A 6 will kill, a 5 will shock. That's a lot of shock, so that's 4 shock on the Indians in there. So that's giving the Indians 4 shock. They're going to need to reduce that, otherwise they're going to be moving very slow, and also they will be firing at 2 dice less So hopefully they're going to get to roll one of their junior leaders so he can actually do something with that. And also, finally, as part of the solo, remember these, the orders. Let's see what their order is. It is find best cover within 12 inch and hold position. I promise there are other ones of these. So again, they're already doing that. So they're basically going to hold where they are. Now it's the Indians to take their turn. And what we're looking for here is to be able to activate one team. If they can then bring in their mortar barrage, which they called for in their last turn. But also they're looking to activate their two sections that are holed up in these buildings so they can bring down a bit more fire on these attacking Japanese. So let's see how we go. So we're looking for 1s and 2s or 3s at least, so we, the junior leaders can command the sections. Well, let's have a look at this. That's quite a good score. So we've got the 1 that we needed. We've got a 3, so that's a junior leader. We've also got a 5, so that's going to put up their chain of command dice. They're now on 4. They've also got 2 6s, which means that they get to take the next phase as well. Okay, given the Indian situation now, they have a choice. They can either fire with the guys that are in this building at these Japanese over here, or they can fire with the guys in this building at the Japanese over here. Now, these guys have got 1 shock. These guys have got 4. So the shock over here won't reduce the dice, the firing dice, whereas the shock over here will reduce the dice by 2, because for every 2 levels of shock you reduce your firing dice. However, the difference is over here they've still got an LMG, so that's going to add 6 dice straight away. Plus they're firing out of 2 windows, so you're going to have the 6 from the LMG plus another 3 from the rifles. You would also actually, I've just thought, yeah, they've got a junior leader in there, so they could actually reduce that shock down by 1 anyway. His second activation would then be to get them to fire, so he would be able to add his dice into that firing pool. So we're starting with 6 with the LMG, adding on the officer 7, 3 rifles, that takes it to 10. However, because they would be on 3 shock, that would drop it down, so that would be 9. Whereas over here we've only got 2 firing. Yeah, let's put that fire back up. We've only got 2 rifles firing, so you'd only get 2 dice. The shock wouldn't reduce anything over here, but they would be able to get rid of the shock completely over there. I don't know about you, but I think I'm probably leaning towards these guys in this one firing. So first of all, I'm going to reduce the shock from 4, drop that right down to 3. As I said, that is now reducing their rifle fire down by 1. They have, what do we say, an LMG with 6. We've also got the junior leader plus 3 other. It's going to be 2 more rifles. Sorry, the junior leader, you can only get 2 men firing out of each window anyway, so it actually brings it down. I was a little bit wrong there. So we've got 2, 5, 9 dice, but we are firing against these in the open, so there's probably going to be some pretty heavy casualties here. So let's have a look. So we're looking at 4, 5, 6s. Get rid of the misses. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 hits. They're in the open. 5, 6 is a kill. 3, 4 is a shock. So that's 3 more shock on top of what they've already got. So they are on 5 now. They've still got more men than shock, but they're probably not going to be moving very far if they're taking 5 inches off each of their dice for moving. So that's pretty much incapacitated them for the time being. So now you'll remember that the observation team activated, so they can now fire at a target that they can see, or they can bring the barrage in that they can see, and they're going to aim fire an aiming shot at these guys. Now they have a choice. I'm just going to put this here just to show where the marker is going to go. They have a choice. They can either fire this as a single aiming shot and roll to see if it hits. If it does, then it will cause damage on the unit it's hit. Or they can, or it may deviate, or they can call in an entire full barrage straight away and hope that it hits. And if it hits, then it will cover an area 18 inches square, which is quite a large area on this back end. They're pretty desperate, so I'm going to say that they're going to call in a full barrage straight away. So what they need to do now then is they roll 2d6. This is their aiming shot. If they get 8 or above, then it's on target and we go on to the hit effect. Otherwise it deviates by a certain amount of inches depending on what the roll is. So let's see, so they're looking for an 8 or above. Oh, it's a 6. So it has deviated by 2d6 inches. And we'll find out where it deviates to. A 1 being directly forward here. It goes towards number 4, which is back towards them. So 1 is that way, 4 is that way. And it goes, we said it was 2d6 inches. So it falls back 5 inches. So that is the central point of the barrage, and to be honest, that might be a lot better than what they originally thought. So now we spread out fire and flame 18 inches around it. So I'll just box this area off, and everything in that starts to take hits. Okay, I just went back to the rules and realised that British barrages, because they only have 2 mortars in a 3-inch mortar barrage, they have 2 mortars, so instead of firing an 18-inch square, they fire a 10-inch square. So I just reduced this down, made it a little bit more compact. What it's actually done is it means that it has actually just missed the line of the observers and the Indian section and the other Indian section there. They're literally just outside of it. However, the Japanese are not so fortunate. Half of this section is still in. The command unit is right underneath it. We've got these guys over here, and also these chaps as well are within it. Now, while the barrage is still firing, they're all pinned anyway, so that means they can't attack until the end of the turn and the barrage lifts. The Japanese could use their chain of command dice to end the turn and to end the barrage, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now what I have to do is go through and dice 4 dice against each of the teams that are under the barrage to see how many it hits, and they're firing at effective range. So for veterans being fired at effective range, that's a 5 or a 6 to hit. And I'll work my way through, also do the casualties and just see how they are. Most of these barrages will also reduce your cover by 1 level. Arguably these are in light cover because that's what I said this stuff was, these bushes, and also I'd say these guys are. So actually under a barrage they're not in any cover at all, so everybody's in the open. So we'll work our way through. There's obviously only 5 guys on this back end here that can really get hit by this, but they may get hit, so it's only 1 team for those in particular. So let's have a look. So 1 hit, they're in the open, so 5, 6 is a kill, so 4 is a shock. So they got relatively light. Let's have a look at these guys over here. Another 4 dice. So that's 2 hits and 5, 6s are kills. 2 1s is nothing, so okay, that's good. This is made up of two teams, so you've got the rifle team, you've also got the LMG team. So I'll do the rifle team first. So that's 2 hits straight away. So we'll re-roll those. 5 6s are kills. 1 kill, 1 shock. There's only one there, so let's see if that is the junior leader, because he's attached to that rifle squad. So if it's a 1, he's killed. Or he's injured. No, he's okay. So it's 2 kills and 1 shock. So that's on that individual team. As I say, 2 kills. There's 1. There's 2. And then the other team is the LMG team. So that no hits there. These 5s and 6s, so they're okay. And over there, let's have a look at them. So the rifles, no hits there. And the LMG team, that's 2 hits. So let's have a look at that. That's 1 kill. So half of that LMG team is wiped out. The Indians retained the round, so they're going to get to roll again. But unfortunately at this point there's no great deal they can do. If they get to activate their junior or senior leaders, then they'll be able to at least reduce the shock on their troops. They can't fire at the moment because literally every bit of line of sight is blocked because of the mortar fire and the burning tanks. Let's see what they've got. Okay, that's okay-ish. Well, the 6 will give them that extra chain of command dice. So that's... Sorry, no, the 6 doesn't give them a chain of command dice. It just doesn't do anything when it's on its own. I do apologise. So now they've got 3 2s and a 3. The 3 is a junior leader, so that's pretty good. They do also have 2 senior leaders in that building as well. Now you can't split dice down, but you can add them together to make 1. So if they turn that 2 2s into a 4, get rid of that, that will then give them the section, who's not going to be able to do anything, a junior leader who will be able to reduce shock, and also a senior leader who can reduce shock as well. So we're just reducing shock, so I'm going to use the 4 from one of the senior commanders in here to reduce that shock from 1 to 0, and then also use the junior leader over here to reduce this shock from 3 down to 2. It's not great, but it's given them a slight reprieve at least while this mortar keeps firing. I mean, they're just going to keep that continuing through the rest of the turn. They're not going to stop it anytime soon. There's no point. So the Indians' turn has finished. What you may notice here is that the light has changed. That's because I'm now playing this on a second day. This is the second morning. I left this set up overnight. I thought it was a nice break just where we finished before with the Indians, and I thought, well, this is a nice break I can have and go off and do some other things, watch some TV, sleep, eat, you know, those things. And I've come back to it on a Saturday. Obviously, not everybody has the ability to be able to set up a table and leave it out over time, but one of the things you can do while you're soloing and while we're all locked down is, you know, play a session, take a photograph of it, then relay it out whenever you get a chance to again, and just come back to it, you know, set up as you were before. Anyway, back to the game. So the Indians' turn is finished, and because the Japanese are currently locked down underneath this barrage, what they're going to do is spend their, just before the end of the Indians' turn, spend their chain of command dice, which they're built up. That allows them to end a turn. By ending a turn, it also means that all the barrages lift, and you check if anybody is still pinned. Now, if you look, the amount of shock that you need to pin a unit is equal to the amount of figures in it. So these guys have got 5, there's still 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. So they're perfectly fine to carry on. These guys, they've got 1 shock and they've got plenty more figures than 1. And these guys over here, these have got 3 shock, so they are also fine to carry on as well. So this means that the Japanese can now be activated again this turn at least. So let's get over to their command dice. So the Japanese are rolling. Let's see what we got. A 5, a 4, 2 and 2 1s. Okay, so the 5 is chain of command points, so they may have just used one up, but they also get one back, so that's not bad. We've got 2 1s, which are teams, a 2 which is a section, and a 4 which is a senior leader. Well, the 4 is obviously going to end up being given over to one of the senior leaders there. We'll decide what we're going to do with them. And as we've said before, we can either you can add these together if you want to make them into higher numbers. You can't split them down, unfortunately. So I could either make another 4 and get my 2 senior leaders doing something, pushing a few units forward, but looking at the board, I don't think that's going to be particularly useful. So what I'm going to do is just turn that into a 2, that into a 2, and then give them to the two of the sections. So what I've done is I've handed one of the sections commands over here and these guys here. I've also given the senior leader his command here. What he's going to do is he's going to reduce shock on these guys. They've only got 1, so we'll take it straight off. What I'm going to try to do, because we're kind of bogging down at this point with the Indians being in these buildings, so what I'm going to do is try to assault these buildings with these guys. Now in chain of command you only need to be within 4 inches of another enemy unit to be able to assault them, and these guys are what, 7 inches away, so they basically need to roll 3 or above on a dice to get anywhere near them, and these guys are 5 inches away, so both of them are pretty close, ready to jump in. You'll also notice as well what I've done here is I've left an aiming point for the observation post, so if they get triggered in the future they may fire again, and if they do their barrage will fall on there. So that's just a reminder for myself. So I'm going to move these guys. They've got 5 shock, so they're actually going to get a minus 5 off the dice. I'm not sure if it's going to be a better idea to move these at the double and take that extra hit of shock just to make sure that they actually get into combat. And I think that is probably the better idea. So I'm rolling 3 dice for these. Now automatically he's going to increase their shock to 6 because they're becoming disordered. Doesn't affect them as a unit anyway. Let's have a look. 14, and with the shock minus it was 5, so they get to move 9 inches. Let's take, say, an inch off for the fencers. They're still well within enough speed to get them into close combat and attack into that house there. Obviously taking their shock with them. So that's that dice sorted. And same over here. These guys are on 3 shocks, so they're going to get to minus 3 off their dice. I'm only going to roll 2 dice for these guys because I only need to literally get them an inch forward. So 4 or anything above is going to get them through. I'll take off another dice because they're in this light cover as well, struggling through that stuff. So minus 4 on the dice. Ooh, that was close. 2 inches. So they are actually just now within the close assault range. Again, take that shot with them. Let me just check that. Yeah, I'm going to give them that. They're just on the board. I'm going to give them that. Close assault in chain of command is pretty brutal. It's very simple as well. So what you do, you basically roll a d6 for each man that's in the fight. The Japanese have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10 dice first of all. We basically work our way down the close combat chart and add. So it says add 1d6 for the command initiative level of every one of your leaders present. There's only 1. He has a command initiative of 2 because he's a junior leader. Add 2d6 for each troop quality higher than your enemy. They're not, they're all the same. 1d6 for each d6 of movement the enemy moved to get into contact. These Japanese move 3d6, so that's another 3d6 for them. Subtract 1d6 for each 2 points of shock on your men in the fight. They have 6, so that's 3 dice off. And then the rest of the charts don't apply to the Japanese in this particular point. What I'll do is I'll roll the Japanese and then I'll roll the Indians. Well, let's So let's see how many we've got. We've got 5, 10, 12 for the Japanese. Let's work out how many we've got for the Indians. They have 9 men in the fight. So let's get these added up as well. So that's 4, 8, 9 in the fight. They also have a junior leader in there, so he's another 2. It says subtract 1d6 for each point of shock on your men in the fight. They've got 2 shocks, so -1. But they are also defending heavy cover, so we add 1d6 for each 2d6 we already have. And we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's another 5 dice. Well, the Japanese may not do so well in this one. Well, it actually says 1d6 for each d6 of movement the enemy has moved to get into contact. So really, the 3d6 should be given to the Indians and not to the Japanese. I'm guessing that's so they can be shooting them as they're coming in. So the Japanese are actually down to 9. The Indians are on about 1 million, I think. So let's roll these. Very simple. You basically, if you outnumber your opponent's dice by 4 to 1, then they will break automatically, otherwise you go on to combat. Every 5 or a 6 is a kill, with every 6 also, I believe, giving a point of shock to the unit as well. And then you work out the difference in the hits and just what the casualties are from there. So this is the Indians' roll. So let's get rid of everything that doesn't count. Alright, that looks like that's almost a wipeout. So we've got 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 hits. That is going to wipe them out actually. So yeah, there is, I know there was 11 I think, wasn't there? 2, 6, 8, 9, 10. No, there's 10 men in there, so that's literally killed every single Japanese. So there's no point even working out what shock they're going to get. So then the Japanese attack. Not so good either. 1, 2, 3. That's 2 kills and 1 shock. So the Indians take 2 kills, 1 shock. The Japanese are completely wiped out. That was actually astounding. I thought that was going to be a lot different. Maybe it just shows you don't attack into buildings. Okay, before I continue, I'm going to have to roll on the bad things happen table for the Japanese. First of all, we've got a section has been wiped out. So if I roll a 1, 2, or 3, their force morale will drop down by a point. If I roll a 4, 5, 6, it will drop down by 2 points. So 1 to 3, so that's 1 point off. Also, one of their junior leaders was killed as well as part of that, and that's going to be the similar roll. So 1 to 3, another point off. 4 to 6 is 2 points off. So they've lost 2 points there. So they are now down to 6. They're just hovering above the 5 points. Anything below 5 on their force morale, really things start to get a bit tricky and a bit sticky for them. Given what has just happened on the right flank of the village, I'm not going to hold out much for this. This may be biting off more than they can chew at this point. But let's see, we've got the Indians, we've also got a couple of senior officers in here, so that's going to really help the Indians in their defence. The Japanese, again, might not get through this one, but there's a far fewer Indians in this building. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're starting with 9. 6, 7, 8, 9. Or it feels like there's fewer, I don't know if there is actually. So there's 9 there. We also add, just to find the charts out, you add 1d6 for the command initiative level of every one of your leaders present. So there's a junior commander, junior leader, so he gets 2. There's also a headquarters commander, he's on 3, and our senior headquarters commander, so he's another 4. There's no difference in the troop level, troop quality. Add 1d6 for each d6 of movement the enemy moves to get into contact, and this is only in the first round. So these guys actually only moved 2d6, so that's another 2d6 for the Indians. They are also defending heavy cover, so we add 1d6 for every 2d6 they've already got, and they've got 5, 10, 15, 20, so that's another 10 dice on top of the ones they've already got. So that's going to be 30 dice. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So the Indians are rolling 30. Let's have a work out at these Japanese. I really don't think the Japanese are going to do very well here. Let's just roll theirs, get them out of the way. Again, same again, 5s and 6s are kills, with 6s causing shock. So let's just see what happens. Oh, it might not be as bad as I thought. There's a lot fewer 5s and 6s in there than in the previous one. Japanese may make it through this, albeit with probably very depleted numbers. Pick these out. Well, I say that. Let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So that's 8 kills. That was a 6. So that's 8 kills with 1, 2, 3, 4 shock. So I'll stick the shock on, so that takes them up to... just stick an extra dice on there. And we said 8 kills. So them, and them. I've got to see if the commander is killed, actually. He's roll under 8 on the d6, so yes, he is one of the casualties. So I'll put one of these units back. But we also have to see what actually happens to him. On a roll of 1 he's been killed. On a roll of 2 or 3 he's wounded and cannot continue. On a 4 to 6 he's lightly wounded. So he's lightly wounded, so he is now down to 1 roll. I probably should have rolled for the other commander, the other junior leader on the other side, but I figured since the entire unit was wiped out, there's little chance of him surviving, so I played it that way. Okay, so that was the Indians' defence. Let's see how good the Japanese were in attack. So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 attacking in total. 2, 4, 6, 12. There is a junior leader with a command initiative of 2, so that's an extra. There's no movement. We have 3 shock, so we subtract 1 point of 1 point for the 2 points of shock on those. They're not aggressive. And they're not defending. So basically we're rolling 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 dice. Let's see what we get. 5s and 6s are kills. Pretty poor results there. So what have we got? We've got 4 kills and 1 shock. There are also leaders in there, so I'm going to have to roll for each one of those to see if they are one of the 4 kills. So let's have a go through. So first of all, the section commander, 1 to a 4, he's one of the 4 casualties. Nope. The junior ranking officer, 1 to 4, no. The senior ranking officer, no. So it's just on the other ranks. And that, along with the other attack on the other side of the village, was spectacularly inconclusive for the Japanese. At least some of them survived this particular round. And unfortunately, the Japanese had a team wiped out, so they've got to roll again on the bad things happen. If they roll a 1 or a 2, there's no effect. A 3 to 6 is another point off their force morale. So that's another point off their force morale. They're now down onto 5. Currently they can act as desired on a 5+, but anything lower than that, and they start reducing their command dice. So we're back to the command dice for the allies. They're rolling 5 still. Hopefully what we're looking for is a 1, so they can bring that barrage back in, and also a 2, or at least their senior leader, so they can fire at the Japanese who just close assaulted them, or at least close assault back. So let's try that, see what we get. Okay, they don't get to activate their team. They do get 2 senior leaders, and also 3 sections as well if they want, which they can turn into senior leaders. So let's have a little think about what they want to do with those. Given that the Indians have only got a couple of units on the table, there's not a great deal they could do with those dice rolls. However, what I've done is I've handed out the senior leader over here. He's going to command this unit to close assault the remainder of these Japanese. There's a handful of those in there. There's very few Japanese left outside, so there's a good chance that they'll kill quite a few of them. The other team is the other section over here in this building are going to fire down on these guys here and try and shoot a few of them. So the Indians firing out of this building over here. They're firing out of 2 windows, so they've got an LMG firing with 6 because they're still surviving, and they've also got 3 rifles as well firing out of there. So it's a reasonable number. They have got 3 shock, so that's going to reduce their number by 1 dice, because for every 2 points of shock you take off 1 dice. They're looking at 4, 5, 6s to hit, and then because they're in the open it's going to be 5, 6s of kills. So let's have a look. 1, 2, get rid of the misses. That's 5 hits. How many of these are kills? 2 kills, 1 shock, and 2 misses. So let's get that shock on there. So there's the shock. They've got 2 kills. Roll a d6, we'll see if one of these is the junior leader. No, he's not hit, so it's just 2 other ranks. So take that guy off, and one of those. In chain of command, if units are within 4 inches of one another, they automatically go into close assault. So because I've activated the Indians over there, they are in close assault with the Japanese who previously attacked them. So I said there's probably a very good chance that they're actually going to wipe them out at this point. Let's see how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is mostly senior leaders in there now. So we've got 6 starting with. I am going to chuck in that extra machine gun that the junior leader has got. There's 1 2d6 in there. The junior leader has got that. We've also got the junior leader. He's got 2 levels of command initiative. We've also got our junior ranking officer. He's got another 3, and we've also got our senior ranking officer as well. They are also defending heavy cover. So this is what they're getting. This is what the Indians have got. That's quite a lot, even if they're adding. So let's see, we've got, again, get rid of the misses. I haven't added on the defence of the heavy cover simply because they're in the process of attacking. As I say, I should have rolled a couple of turns this last turn. So that's killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Japanese. All of them are killed. You know, the junior leader is also part of that. He's another 6th man, so he's off as well. So I'm not going to bother rolling to see if he's wounded or not. I'm just going to take him off. So this is going to really hurt the Japanese. But let's have a look at their rolls back to see how many casualties they cause on the Indians. 3, 4, 5. We've got a junior leader of 2. And that's it. They're defending light cover, because they're in that scrub. So we had 1d6 for every 3d6 we already have. We've got another 2 then. So that's just 1 hit and 1 shock. So again, I've got to go through each of the Indians to see if any one of them are killed. So the junior leader on a 1, no. The junior ranking officer, no. And the ranking officer, ooh, he's been hit. If we roll a 1 again, he's been killed and he's off. 2 or 3, he's been wounded and can't activate. And a 4 to 6, he drops down to 1 in his initiative. 1, he's killed. Wow. Okay, so the Japanese may have attacked and got wiped out, but they've actually killed the senior ranking officer of the Allies there. That's going to hit their morale pretty bad, I would say. But also, the Japanese here are going to have their morale pretty badly hit as well. So let's take a look at what this means for morale on both sides. So back over here with the morale, we've got the Japanese, they're currently on 5, so they're almost on the edge of getting some terrible stuff happening. And the British, the Allies, should I say, meanwhile, are on 7. So they're okay. Let's have a look. We've got a senior leader was killed. If we roll a 1, 1 point is off. 2 to 5, it's 2 points off. A 6, and you're minus 3 points off. So 1 point off. So they're actually on 6, so they're still okay. The Japanese, on the other hand, they have not only had a section wiped out, but they've also had a junior leader killed as well. So these are both pretty bad. 1 to 3 on both of these, you minus 1 point, and 4 to 6, you minus 2 points. So let's have a look, see what happens here. They're automatically going to lose 2 points anyway. So 1, 3 points off. 1, 2, 3. So they're actually on 2 now. Pretty dire straits at this point for the Japanese. So let's just have a quick look at the sit rep for the Japanese at this point. We've got over here this team, you may remember years ago, they did pretty well straight away. They wiped out that mortar team and they were advancing up the left flank. In the centre, we've just lost the central section in the fight against the Indians in that little hut there. We've also got the command headquarters, the headquarters still behind here, so they're still intact and not much happened. And then over on the left flank, again, we had the wipeout of the other attack on that hut there. But over here, we've still got a relatively intact section left. That's got 6, 7, 8 men in it out of the 12. So they've lost a few, but unfortunately they're right next to that aiming point. So if the Allies do fire another barrage, it's going to catch them and this squad as well, and probably pin them as well. Okay, so let's get on with the Japanese command roll. Just checked, the Japanese, when they're on a 2 force morale, they minus 2 from their original command roll, not 3 as I thought, so it's actually down to 3 dice instead of 2. Also, normally you would remove a jumping off point. I'm not using them in this game, so that doesn't really count, but we'll roll our command dice, see what we get. So that's a 6, does nothing on its own. 4 is the senior leader, which is pretty good, and 1 is a team. So this is, it's not great for them really, but let's see what we can do with that. So there's not a great deal I could have done with those dice rolls really. I've given the 4 to the senior leader, as you would expect. The 1, I don't want to give it to anybody because I haven't got any team. I don't want to separate any teams at this point. But the senior leader is basically just going to reduce their shock by 1, and that's the Japanese turn. That's all they can do. Okay, it's the Indians' command roll. See what they get. Okay, they haven't got a team. They've got a double 6, which means they retain next turn, so they get 2 turns. They get a chain of command dice, so that's now on 5. That's very useful. And 2 senior commanders. And, you know, they've got 2 senior commanders, so that's pretty good. We'll distribute those orders and see where they go from there. Sorry, I forgot, the senior commander was previously killed, but they do have another ranking commander in here. So he will use his command initiative to reduce their shock. Now, I've only got the 1 senior commander, the other one was killed, remember? I'd forgotten, but there we are. So he's in there. Now, it says in the rules, it's slightly confusing. It says you can use 1 command initiative to reduce 1 point of shock. He has 3 command initiatives. So can he use all three to reduce 3 shock? I'm going to say yes. It doesn't say you can't, so I'm going to say yes. So he's reducing their shock straight down to 0, so they are no longer under shock. But again, the Allies get their second turn because they get to retain that phase, you'll remember. So here we've got another senior leader, a team, which is exactly what they wanted, 2 5s, which is their chain of command. So that's another 2 chain of command points. So they've actually now got a chain of command dice plus an extra point, so that's quite useful for them. So we'll get rid of those. We've got the senior commander again. We've also got that team, which is the observers, and I think we probably know what the observers are going to do. So the Allied senior leader couldn't really do much. He's already got rid of their shock in that hut. He can't get rid of their shock because they're still in line of sight with that enemy unless he was attached to that unit. The observation post, they've called in the barrage again, so the next time that they get activated, the barrage will fall again on this aiming point right here. So that really pretty much ends the Allied turn for this phase. So the Japanese command roll, this gets us, that was a 2, so that's a 2 and a 5, so that gives them 1 chain of command point and allows them to activate 2 sections, or the senior leader if they combine them. Okay, I've given out the 2 sections, so this first one, they know what's coming, so I'm going to try to get them out there. They're moving at the double, so that's going to give them shock, but that gives them 10 inch of movement. I'm going to fall these back behind these trees here. On this side, the Japanese have still got this fresh section. Over here, though, in these trees, just behind the river, there's another unit which I've yet to spot. It's about 12 inches away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move, so I'm going to try to get them in so they can actually fire at the remainers of the Indians in that building there. I also want to reveal what this unit is up here as well in these trees. So we'll move our... They're going to move at the double. Or is that sensible? No, they're going to move 1d6 worth, staying behind these trees, but also getting around this tank, hopefully, to be able to shoot at that building. So 3 inches. Get some of them up against that fence line. I'm still going to say that that is blocking line of sight from that the smoke puddling out of there, but let's just... And they are still just 12 inches, just over 12 inches away from the other unit, that's the Allied unit that's in those trees there. So I'm going to leave them for now. Just show you where that unit is. You can see something there, there's a label there, so we don't know what that is, but we're just out of range of it. So back with the Indians, what we're looking for is to get a junior leader out so he can reduce some shock, maybe to bring in the barrage with the mortar team, and really that's about it at the moment. There's not a great deal else we can do. So let's see what we've got. Well, we've got a chain of command point. That's 1 extra, so we've got a senior leader, 2 senior leaders, we've only got 1 left still, a junior leader, which is pretty much what we wanted, and a section as well. So we haven't got the team, so we can't actually fire the barrage yet, which is a bit annoying. So obviously the orders haven't got through, so I'll just see what I can do with these bits. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to use the junior leader over here. He is going to reduce the shock by 2 levels down to 1. He will then, using the section activation, I'm going to then move the entire unit as far as they can over to here, if they can get in. So let's see, 3 inches. So they're now bombing it out into the open. So that's leaving that building undefended, but at this point it doesn't really matter because there's not a great threat from the Japanese on that side. Everything is happening over this way, so they want to get over there as quick as possible. So the Japanese are now rolling their command dice. They're 3. So we've got a chain of command point, a senior commander and a junior commander. So that's not too bad actually, so let's see what we can do with that. Okay, so we've got a couple of things to do here. The senior commander, I've given the senior commander to them obviously, and the junior leader to this section over here. So the senior commander is going to get his unit to move at the double to behind these trees if they can. Then he's going to use another command initiative to reduce the shock that will be caused by that move. So that's 8 inches. Let's see how far we get. Oh dear, that's kind of putting him in the open. It's not perfect, but at least I haven't got any shock at this point. It means they can be shot at by the Indians in that building. These guys over here still got the threat from this thing in the woods, but I want to get again round this this tank just to get them into position to be able to actually fire at whatever might be over there. So let's just give them a single dice move. That's a 6, so they're moving tactically. So I'm going to bring them up behind, just behind these trees. So that will then give them sight across there. They're also moving tactically, so that means that they are in some kind of cover. So they're in light cover now if they get fired at. They are also now within 12 inches of this unit over here. So let's reveal that and see what happens. Right, like me, I'm sure you're desperate to know what some of these remaining units are. Oh, a bit of coronavirus. It is an infantry section. So that's another one now on the flank. So these Japanese are now not only outnumbered at this point, but completely outflanked as well. So that's another 8 or 9 men. I'm going to say arguably you can't see each other because of the tree in the way, but we now know they're there. That's kind of trapping them where they are without a fight. So that's going to be fun. And just before I forget, let's do their check to see what their orders are. Again, I'm shuffling these. You don't have to shuffle them if you don't want to. I am doing just to add even more randomness to the game itself. So let's see what we've got. They are find the best cover and hold position. They're already in the best cover. For an interesting game, it would have been better if they'd have been able to advance to contact. So the Indians have now got quite a few units on the board that they can activate. So let's see what we get. Well, we've got a 6. That does nothing on its own. Got 2 5s, so that's 2 chain of command dice and 2 senior leaders. Again, that's not great, but I can do something with them. This is actually quite a nice simple turn. The commander in here is no longer in line of sight of enemy, and actually speaking about it, we could get him to... He is going to get to activate the teams in there to fire at the Japanese headquarters as they're running past. So let's see how that goes. So we've got 4 rifles, but only 2 can fire out of the front window. So it's 2 rifles firing down there. They need a 4, 5, 6 to hit. So 1 hit. They're in the open. 5, 6 is going to be a kill. 3, 4 is... So that's 1 killed. So let's see if it's their junior ranking officer on a 1. If it's their senior ranking officer on a 1. No, so it's just one of the riflemen. So as the Japanese headquarters are trying to flee, one of the riflemen was killed in crossfire from the village. And back again to the Japanese command rolls. We've got a 1, 2 and a 3. Not great really. I could do better than that. So we've got a team, junior commander and a section. I might be able to do something with these. I've added the 2 and the 1 together and activated that junior leader there in this section. What they're going to try to do is push through that jungle and then hopefully open fire on those Indians on the other side of the river. And over here I've given the other 3 to the junior commander down here, and what he's going to do is basically just reduce that shock on that unit. Okay, over here I'm going to try to get these guys to move through the jungle to see if they can fire at the Indians on the other side. So they're moving 4, -2 because they're going through thick jungle. So they're going to be literally just inside it. And they are within the 4-inch edge of being able to fire out of jungle, so they're actually able to fire out. I'm going to give them both sides heavy cover because they both are in jungle. So we've got the box-fed LMG and we've also got 11 riflemen all firing together. They're firing into the jungle. They need 4, 5s and 6s to hit in the first instance. So let's get rid of all the misses. See what we're left with. This is probably the best Japanese chance at this point. We've got 2, 4, 6, 7 hits. That's not bad actually. The section is only 9 men strong anyway, so they might do quite a bit of damage here. So we re-roll these. They're in heavy cover, so a 6 will kill, 5 will shock, anything else is a miss. Okay, literally every single shot missed. So that's nothing. Brilliant, well done. Also, just to keep you abreast as well, I moved this unit over here using their junior commander. He's now moved them to the other side of the road where the village is there, so they've moved forward, and then he reduced shock from them completely, so they're all doing okay as well. So this is a state of play at the moment. We've got Indians in the jungle over there, we've got Indians in the village over here, moving back to their new positions, while we've still got the Japanese running about like a wet hen at this point, I think. Back to the Indians. They are looking to get... They're not so bothered about activating their team at the moment, but what we want to do is try to kill or destroy as many Japanese at this point as possible to reduce their morale even further. Just when you don't need teams, they all come up. So we've got 3s, a 1, 2s and a 3. That's quite useful actually, so I'll... that command roll has worked out pretty well for the Indians. I've combined a 2 and a 1 to activate the junior commander there, so he's then going to fire at the Japanese across the river. I've also used the 3 over here to activate that junior commander, who will get these guys to move probably into this building or one of the smaller buildings, just getting them further this way so they can fire hopefully down at the Japanese command. And also I've given the 2 of the 2s, combined those into a 4 to activate the senior commander in here, who will get his team of guys to fire again at the Japanese command down there. So let's see how all that works out. The Indians firing have got a box-fed LMG plus 9 rifles, 8 rifles, so that's 6 plus 8, 14 dice. They're looking same as the Japanese were, 4, 5, 6s to hit. That's a reasonable amount of hits, same as the Japanese, 7. So let's see what happens. They now need 6s to kill, 5s or shock. So that's just 1 kill. So not terrible. Let's see if it's their junior leader. Nope, that's a 4, so not. So it's just one of the riflemen. Here we've got the senior Indian commander firing at the Japanese command down there. They've got 5 rifles. They're firing in the open. They need 4, 5, 6s to hit, and then they've got good chances of killing when they do. So let's see. So that's 2 hits. Reroll those. 5, 6s are kills. 3 or 4 is a shock. So 1 shock, and that's it. A pretty good chance then, but they blew it. So the Indian guys over here, their junior commander is going to get them to move and then also reduce the shock. He's going to get them to move at the double, so that gives them 14 inches of movement. We'll get them to get into that building actually, and then they're in a good position to be able to fire out at the Japanese. They take 1 shock for moving, and he's going to reduce that with his second activation. His first activation was to get them to move, second activation will be to reduce the shock. Now obviously we don't want any artillery falling at this point. I'm going to say that is medium cover because it's quite open, but it means that everybody can fire out of it should they want to. Okay, Japanese command roll. 2 5s and a 4. Not really what they wanted, so that gives them 2 points on their chain of command dice and 1 senior leader. At least it means they can get the senior leader out of line of fire. So the activation is for the senior commander. I'm going to get him to move as far around these jungle here, because otherwise he's going to be taking fire from this building and also the building as well that they've been firing out from before. So he's rolling 2 dice. His first activation, 6 inches. So that gets them nice and clear behind those woods, out of danger. His second activation will be to reduce the shock from the unit, so they're back to normal. So back to the Indian command roll. The Indians are really looking to destroy as much Japanese infantry at this point to try to reduce their levels of, that was 5, reduce their levels of morale. So that's 2 chain of command points. The 6 here does nothing, but they've got a senior commander and a junior commander as well, so that is probably actually perfect for what they need. So I've handed out the command ratings. So we've got the senior commander over there and we've got the junior commander in here. He's got 2 activations, so his first activation is going to reduce that shock down to 0. Then he's going to get them to fire at these Japanese down here. The senior commander in this building will also get his units to fire down here, and I'm going to put them in light cover just because of the amount of terrain that's in between them. So let's see how these Indians get on with this. So the first group, we've got a box fed LMG, so that's 6 dice. We've got another 6 soldiers armed with rifles, so that's 12 dice. They've got no shock. We're looking at 4, 5, 6s to hit. That's a goodly number of hits by the looks of it. They are currently in light cover, so a 6 is a kill, 4, 5 is shock, and anything else is a miss. So we're looking for 6s, 4 plus really, 5, so 1 shock. So that's their 1 shock. We've also got the team up here. There's 4 of them, rifles, 4, 5, 6s, 3 hits. Same again, 6 is a kill, 4, 5 is shock. So another point of shock. So they've not killed anyone, but they've certainly hit their morale. Back to the Japanese, they're rolling their 3 dice. So they've got a 6, a 5 and a 2. The 6 does nothing. The 5 gives them 1 chain of command point, so that's giving them 1 chain of command dice at least. And the 2 is a section. Okay, so they're going to activate their section over here to fire, but before they do, the Indians are spending a chain of command dice to activate their units to fire at them instead and take them by surprise. So let's see what happens with that. We've got box fed LMG with 6 and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rifles, because this time they're not using their junior leader to be shouting orders or something. 4, 5, 6s to hit. That's a lot of hits by the look of it. The Japanese are still in heavy cover, So that's 6, 7 hits in total. Japanese are in heavy cover, so 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. My goodness, that's 3 kills, no shock. So that wasn't particularly good for the Japanese. They will now return fire. So they again have got a box-fed LMG. They also have, now they have 1, 2, 3, 4 rifles. So they're firing the same, 4, 5, 6s to hit. And 1, 2, 4. So they've hit 6. So getting 6s to kill, 5s for shock. So 2 shock on those Indians. Meanwhile, back over here, the Indians will use a second chain of command dice, because they had 2, to interrupt the Japanese turn and fire again with these guys in the building down on the ones in the open down here. So again, we've got a box-fed LMG, so that's 6 dice, plus another 5 rifles. So let's just see what this does. 4, 5, 6 is a hits. That's not a great number, that's 3 hits. They're in light cover, 4, 5 shock, 6 is a kill. Nothing. So the interruption there in the Japanese turn really kind of played with their plans a little bit. So let's see what the Indians can do in their actual turn now. So we've got a 5, so that's another chain of command point. A 1, a 2 and 2 3s. So the Indians have combined their 2 and a 1 into a 3 to give this junior leader an activation. They've also got the junior leader in here, because there's a junior and a senior leader in this hut. He's going to activate and fire, and then they've also got their 3rd junior leader is in the big hut here, and he's going to activate as well. So they're going to hopefully fire at these chaps over here and also at these ones over here. Meanwhile, before anything happens, the Japanese are spending their chain of command dice that they've got, and they're going to use that to use this section to fire at the Indians who are up there. I said they were in light cover. So we've got, let's do this quickly, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rifles. They're firing at 4, 5s and 6s to hit. There's no box-fed LMG over there. So that's 1 hit. The Indians again are in light cover, so a 6 is a kill, 4, 5 is shock. And 1 shock. So there's the Indian shock. That was the interrupted turn, so these Indians will fire back using their junior leader. He could activate and actually reduce that shock by 1 and then get them to activate as well, so he will do. He chucks his rifle in, so again they've got an LMG, box LMG, they've also got 6 rifles. And again we're looking at 4, 5s and 6s. That's a lot of 4, 5s and 6s. So take a look at that. That's a pretty big hit. So let's see how many of these transform into kills. 6s are kills because the Japanese are in light cover down here. 4, 5s are... Let's get rid of all the ones that aren't anything. So they've got taken 1 kill and 4 shock. So that gives them 6 shock in total now. There's 7 men in the team in the section. So 1 more shock and they will be pinned. If they get double the amount of shock, they will break. Sticking down here, we've got the junior leader with the 2 rifles firing out again. 4, 5, 6. Both misses. Apologies for this, but the Indians over here, they fired. The camera fell over. The Indians fired at the Japanese over here. They caused 2 shock and 2 kills. So here's a quick look at the state of play. We've currently got a couple of Japanese units down here. So we've got this section currently taking fire from the Indians in the village, who are both holed up in this. And in this hut here, we've got the command section cowering behind the jungle over there. And we've also got another section which is fighting with the Indians who are in the jungle on the other side of the river over there. Sorry for my shadow. What you may not have noticed is that there are still quite a few cards that have yet to be revealed up this back end of the table. It's probably about the back third of the table. There's still quite a lot of cards here. 3 of these definitely have to be dummies, but that still means that there's at least 2 that are active, fresh Indian units. And as we've so far only revealed 3 of the 4 sections, there's at least another infantry section up there. I think the Japanese are really going to be pushing to actually do any more damage in this game, but I'm going to keep playing it and just see where we go with it and see what happens. So we're back to the Japanese with their 3 dice. They have 2 3s and a 2. It's not terrific. What can we do with those? We've got 2 junior leaders and a section. So the Japanese section down here, the junior leader is going to attempt to get these guys to fire. He's going to drop their morale down first of all, down to 5 from 6, and then his second activation will be to fire up there. So there's 7 rifles firing into light cover. They've got 5 shock, so that's going to reduce that by 2 down to 5, sorry. And they're going to fire up there. That's 4 5 6s to hit. It's 2 hits. 6 is kill. 4 5 is shock. So 1 shock on the Indians in the big hut in the centre of the village. And then back with the action over on the river. We've got the Japanese commander here. He is going to roll, see if we've got reduce the shock down to 1. Then fire at the Indians. So we've got 6 for their LMG. 1 2 3 4 5 rifles. So again, we're looking for 4 5 6s. See what we got in here. That's 5 hits. They're in heavy cover. 6 is kills, 5 is shock. So 1 kill, 1 shock. Okay, back over with the Indians. The 6 does nothing. The 5 gives them an extra chain of command dice. They've got a senior leader, and a team. It's not particularly great, but let's see what we can do with those. So I've divided those up. The senior commander over here is going to direct his fire against these guys over here, and then I'm going to use the LMG team that's in the woods here to fire again at these Japanese here as well. So we'll try to destroy or break this unit if we can. So the senior commander, they've got 3 windows they can fire out of. There's 4 men in there with rifles, so that all 4 can fire. We're looking at 4 5s and 6s to hit. That's 3 hits. The Japanese are in heavy cover, so again it's going to be 6 is a kill. 5, that's a shock at least. And then the Indian team over the river with the LMG, that's going to fire down, firing 6 rounds. And same again, 4 5 6s are hits. So that's 1 hit, a 6, and re-roll 3, that's nothing. So we're back to the Japanese with their command roll, and they have a 6 and 2 1s. So that gives, the 6 does nothing for them. The 2 1s, they could turn that into a section. That is probably their best option at this point, I think. The Japanese are going to use a 2, the 2 1s, to activate this section. They're going to get them to move at the double to try to get behind these trees. So they're rolling 3 dice. They've got 5 shock. They're going to add another one anyway afterwards, but right now they've got 5, so it's going to be 5 off the dice. So that's 9 inches. And that is just not enough to get them into the woods, unfortunately. So they're still in the open. They're now with 6 shock. There's 7 there in that unit. So the Indians only really need to cause another point of shock on them to pin them, or kill somebody to also pin them. So they're in pretty dire straits as well at this point. Speaking of the Indians, it's their phase. So we've got 6 on its own does nothing. 5 gives them a chain of command points. so they're up to 3 now. They also have senior commander, a section, and a junior commander. So that's pretty much everything that they've got on the board can activate. So first things first, they're using their team, their section in the woods. They're going to fire down onto the Japanese here. They've got an LNG. So now 6 dice. They've got 7 rifles. Sorry, they've got 6 rifles now. They've also got 2 shocks, so that reduces by 1 fire. 4, 5, 6 to hit. Some good hits there. They need 6s to kill, or they're also looking for shock as well on 5s. That's a lot of kills. Let's get rid of the non-kills. So we've got 4 kills, 1 shock. So let's put that shock up to 3. And we said what, 4 kills, so spreading those out, that takes out that team, and 2 of them, one of which may be their commander, their junior leader. So let's have a look. So a roll under 4 is going to be him killed. 3, that's the junior leader. A 1 will kill him. No, he's light wounded. But they've had a team wipes out, so they're going to have to roll, and the bad things happen anyway. So let's just see what happens with that. So we've got a couple of rolls on this. We've got team breaks, team wiped out. 1 or 2 is no effect. 3, 4, 5, 6 is minus 1 point. So that's minus 1 point straight away. They've also got junior leader is wounded. It doesn't specify if it's light wounds or any other kind of wounds, so I'm just going to go with it being a wound. 1 or 2 is no effect. 3 to 5, 1 point off, and 6 is 2 points. So basically, if they need a 1 or a 2 here to actually stay in the game. 5, that's 1 point off. The Japanese have reached 0 on their morale, which means that they either rout or surrender. And as none of the Japanese are surrounded, they are going to rout off table. So with the Japanese now routing off table, let's just have a quick look and a sum up of what happened and how this game went. Nice game of chain of command. So basically we got the Japanese trying to get into this village. The right flank tried to get in, got smashed to pieces. Then the action kind of switched over a little bit to the left flank, where our original Japanese section had pushed their way all the way up to the jungle up here to the back third of the table, but were halted by the Indians in this tree line firing at them, and also from fire coming out of the Indians that were not only in this hut here, but also these guys here were holding off the Japanese as they were trying to cross the road at the bottom down here. The Japanese command stuck here behind this jungle, patch of jungle, not really being able to do a great deal. The rest of the table, as I say, the Indians really put up a really good defence there, and we can see that there are still, I mentioned it previously, there are still a lot of cards left. I don't know what they are. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reveal these and show you that I wasn't cheating. I mean, you know, for a randomised setup, that was a really good defence line for the Indians, having a section here, and then at the third section on that back end, the only weak point was the mortar crew down at the bottom there. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got up here. So that one up at the back is a dummy. This other one here that's covering the road and the bridge, another dummy. There's only 3 of these dummies, remember, and the third one here, this is the anti-tank team. So obviously from, you know, the previous game, that's obviously where they were pointed. This has worked out really well, and honestly I didn't set these up at all. Really chuffed with that. We also have another infantry section here covering the back. Again, that's a pretty good position. They're right in the centre, able to cover quite a large area, and I'm guessing this last one's got to be a dummy, and yes, that's a dummy as well. So you know, one of the things when you're solo wargaming is you can kind of set the game how you want. You can do what you want with it. What I would do possibly in future is I would get some of the smaller fragile teams like the anti-tank team and the mortar team who are down there, and I would shuffle them as a separate deck, maybe with just one dummy or two dummies, and put the rest of the sections in. And then I would, you know, I would normally in a game anyway, I would probably have my sections, the infantry spread across somewhere down the centre there, in and around the village, and then you would also have your support stuff a little bit further back. So that's something you could do. You can separate down your different types of units that you've got in the game, and you can really, you know, just make it play as you want. The more card decks you've got, the better. And as I said, we've got the orders cards. I'd only made up a few different kinds of orders for this game, but you could certainly add as many as you wanted to, or you know, remove them, or whatever you want to do with it. It's really a simple system of pretty much what is artificial intelligence that you're adding to the game that just gives you that unknown quantity. As I say, you know, from a point of view of a defence situation, the Indian defence was absolutely fantastic here. You know, the cinematic feel as well of Chain of Command is really good. You know, earlier on in the game, a lot of the concentration of the action was in this area because this is where I was trying to push forward with the Japanese more so. And then as that bit collapsed, it turned over to this bit over here, and again kind of just microscoped in on these flanks, and in the fighting around the woods and the villages over the woods and the rivers over here. So you know, it gives you a really good feel to the game itself, and just, you know, a bit of a narrative, as I keep saying about solo wargaming. That's what it's about. It's about that narrative of the game, not so much about, you know, am I going to win or am I going to lose. It's how well can I do given the circumstances. This would be a nice little setup to try again. Obviously, not everybody has the same kind of setup or the same size of board or amount of terrain that I have, but you could quite easily just buy, as I say, green sheets of paper, cut them out into random shapes, and that you've got a forest. Cut them in squares, you've got houses, brown ones. Rivers and roads can be cut from brown and blue paper. You know, just order them off Amazon. Dead easy. The table doesn't even have to be this big, as you've seen. You know, this is a 6 foot by 4 foot table. Most of the action was in this 4 foot by 4 foot section at the bottom end anyway. You know, we never even got up to this back end. The furthest we got was the river up here. So you could play this quite easily on a kitchen table or on the floor. It doesn't have to be on a table. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I really enjoyed playing it. I'll probably play another one while we're still in lockdown. Maybe Chain of Command, something else. Maybe I ain't got been shot mum or something like that. Show you how those rules work. See how they can go play solo. But really, at the end of the day, solo gaming is completely up to you. I've made loads of mistakes in this. I've forgotten to do loads of things. Doesn't matter. The game still turned out as it should have done, and I really enjoyed it. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe because there's more coming. And stay safe and stay locked up, and happy gaming.